Hey everyone, welcome to my channel, and I am gonna complete the series for interview related concept in JavaScript. So today we're gonna talk about a very important concept in JavaScript, which is very oftenly asked in interview questions, like what are pure functions. So as you can see, the definition of a pure function is a pure function is a function that always gives the same output for the same input, and it does not change anything outside its scope. So let's talk about the first line, which is said like same output for the same input. That's the definition for a pure function. So whenever you are asked in an interview, that is something you have to tell. And the second part says it does not change anything outside the scope. That means we'll come to that later with an example. Okay. So technically it's saying about the side activity or the side, any of the side work which you do. For example, be it like changing a variable or even doing a fetch call, any API call, anything, any side thing which is changing, that is also not considered as a pure function. Okay. So a basic example for a pure function would be if I have to create function, right? We can create a function and say that's a sum. It takes two arguments, a and b, all right, and it returns a plus b. Okay. Does this method count as a pure function or not? It's very easy to check. We have to check what? As the definition says, you should have same output for the same input, right? So if we give an input a as 3 and b as 5, the output for the sum method would be 3 and 5, right? So this will be output will be 8. Let's test this thing in like in JavaScript. So we can create a function quickly, sum, and let's take an argument a comma b, right? So it's just going to return a plus b. That's it. And let's call this method and console.log sum. We can provide 3 and 5, and that's the magic, right? It gives us output as 8. So even if I run multiple times, it will always give the output as 8. So only when we change the argument, then only it's gonna change the output. That's very simple, right? Correct. So let me give you an example of an impure function, or what would be an impure function. Let's say if I have to add some kind of impurity, I could add something like Math.randomness, right? So it's a method which it returns us randomly when you call this between a decimal between 0 and 1. So just to check, for example, it's working correctly. As you can see, whenever I am printing the value on the right hand side, or the method the sum is returning is changing. To see an integer, let's say pass integer, we can also provide let's say we can multiply with 10. So we provide a random integer between 0 and 10. So let's see what does it return. So it's randomly it's gonna pick any number and it's gonna return. Okay. So this is an example of impure function. Now we talked about second definition, which says it does not change anything outside its scope. Okay. So let's take an example. Consider an example where a method, we can call it like some method only, and what it is doing is instead of returning, so let's say there is a variable total, okay, which is currently 0. So it's a global variable, and we're calling this method and we are returning this data, as well as what we are doing is we are assigning this total as a plus b. Okay. Will this method now be pure? Technically speaking, going with the definition, it says it does not change anything outside scope. So scope of a method is this inside this block, right? Technically, it is changing this variable which is outside the scope, or in other terms, defined outside the current method scope. So this is an example of impure function as well. So do give this example when you are asked in the interview. So now we have learned about what is pure function and what is impure function. You might be thinking like what this knowledge is gonna help me, right? So an interviewer like wants to know like do you have knowledge of this particular concept or not, because in JavaScript methods like map, reduce, and even filter, they are based on pure functions only. Even the React library which you might be using it, or it's technically based on predictable rendering, right? So I mean, the same component, if you give the same props, it's gonna render the same way, exactly the same time. I mean, like, so it's not gonna change. So technically, this concept is being used everywhere and majorly on the UI side. So I hope next time when someone asks you, you just include this jargon, so it will uh, get you a good impression on the interview. So that's it for now, and I'll see you in next video with some new topic. Till then, bye.